Lisa couldn't believe what she was reading. She had been offered the job in Canada. It was more than she had ever expected, and the reality of it took a moment to sink in. When it finally did, she let out a cry of excitement, her heart pounding with joy. In the bustling city, where dreams clashed with reality and every corner buzzed with life, there was a grand auditorium. People from all walks of life gathered there, their hearts filled with hope and determination. They came for one purpose: to showcase their talents at a highly anticipated audition. Among the crowd stood Lisa, a tall and slightly chubby lady in her mid-twenties. Lisa had traveled from the western parts of the country, leaving behind her family in search of a better life. She had studied accounting, a course that demanded precision and discipline. Lisa was proud of her achievements, but her true passion lay elsewhere. She dreamed of making her family famous, of seeing their name in the lights. Her family was neither rich nor poor, just average. But Lisa wanted to change that. She wanted to lift her family out of obscurity and into the spotlight. As Lisa stood in line, waiting for her turn, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. The auditorium was packed with talented individuals, all eager to prove themselves. She glanced around, observing the other contestants. Some were singing softly to themselves, while others practiced their dance moves or rehearsed their lines. The air was thick with anticipation. Just ahead of Lisa in the line stood Mark, a tall man in his early 30s with a captivating smile. He had a presence that was hard to ignore. Like Lisa, Mark had also studied accounting, but his journey had been much different. Mark had grown up in poverty, where every day was a struggle. He had seen poverty in all its harshness, and it had left a deep mark on him. But Mark was determined. He had resolved to make it against all odds, and to do so in a genuine and honest way. Mark had come to the audition with a singular focus: to succeed. He wasn't just doing this for himself, he was doing it for everyone who had ever believed in him. He wanted to prove that no matter where you came from, you could rise above your circumstances and achieve greatness. As the line slowly moved forward, Lisa and Mark found themselves standing side by side. They exchanged polite smiles, both too focused on the audition to strike up a conversation. But as they inched closer to the stage, the silence between them grew uncomfortable. Finally, Mark broke the ice. "Nervous?" he asked, his voice warm and reassuring. Lisa turned to him and nodded. "A little," she admitted, "but I'm also excited. I've been waiting for this opportunity for so long." Mark nodded in understanding. "Same here. It's not easy, but I keep telling myself that this is just another step towards the bigger goal." They fell into a comfortable conversation, each sharing a bit about their lives. Lisa talked about her family, about how she wanted to make them proud. She spoke of her determination to succeed, even if it meant stepping out of her comfort zone. Mark listened attentively, nodding at all the right moments. He could see the fire in her eyes, the same fire that burned within him. In turn, Mark shared his own story. He spoke of his childhood, of the hardship he had faced, but he didn't dwell on the negativities. Instead, he focused on how those experiences had shaped him, made him stronger and more determined. He talked about his ambitions, about how he wanted to succeed not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever supported him. As they talked, a bond began to form between them. It was the kind of bond that only two people who understood each other's struggles could share. They both knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way. Finally, it was Lisa's turn to audition. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel Mark's eyes on her, offering silent encouragement. With a final glance at him, Lisa walked onto the stage, ready to give it her all. Mark watched her go, a sense of pride swelling within him. He didn't know why, but he felt certain that Lisa would do well. There was something about her, a quiet strength, a determination that matched his own. As the doors closed behind Lisa, Mark prepared himself for his own audition. He knew that whatever happened today, he had gained something valuable. A new friend who understood him, who shared his dreams and ambitions. And in a world as competitive as this, that was something worth holding on to. Mark knew that this was just the beginning. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but he was ready. With Lisa by his side, he felt more confident than ever. Together, they would face whatever challenges came their way. And so, as Mark waited for his turn, he allowed himself a small smile. He had come to the audition with the hope of changing his life, and he had already taken the first step. The rest would follow in due time. Weeks had passed since the audition, and life continued its usual pace in the bustling city. For Lisa and Mark, however, something had changed. Their paths had crossed, and from that moment on, they found themselves drawn to each other. They kept in touch regularly, checking in to see how the other was doing, and more importantly, offering words of encouragement when things didn't go as planned. After the audition, both Lisa and Mark had hoped for good news, but the reality of the entertainment industry was harsh. Opportunities were scarce, and competition was fierce. Despite their best efforts, neither had been chosen for the roles they had auditioned for, but they didn't let the rejection bring them down. Instead, they pushed forward, determined to keep chasing their dreams. Lisa and Mark spent hours on the phone, talking about their experiences. They discussed the various auditions and interviews they had attended, each one seeming to lead to another dead end, but they never allowed themselves to feel discouraged for too long. They knew that success didn't come easily, and they were willing to work hard for it. On one particular afternoon, Lisa received a call from Mark. His voice was as warm as ever, but there was a hint of frustration that he couldn't quite hide. "How did the interview go?" Lisa asked, hoping for good news. Mark sighed. "It was another disappointment. They said I wasn't what they were looking for." Lisa felt a pang of sympathy. She knew how hard Mark had been working, and it hurt to hear that he was struggling. "Don't let it get to you, Mark. You are talented, and the right opportunity will come. We just have to keep going." Mark appreciated Lisa's words. She always knew how to lift his spirits, even when things seemed bleak. "Thanks, Lisa. I needed to hear that. How about you? Any luck on your side?" Lisa shook her head, even though Mark couldn't see her. "No, not yet. But I'm not giving up. We've come too far to stop now." They continued to talk, sharing their hopes and fears, and by the end of the conversation, both felt a renewed sense of determination. It was moments like this that strengthened their bond. Even though neither of them openly acknowledged it, they had grown close, not just as friends, but as two people who genuinely cared for each other. Lisa admired Mark's transparency and honesty. He never pretended to be something he wasn't, and he was always straightforward about his feelings and his struggles. In a world where people often put on masks to hide their true selves, Mark's authenticity was refreshing. It was one of the things that Lisa loved most about him, though she would never say it out loud. In her heart, Lisa knew she was falling for Mark, but she also knew that in their culture, it wasn't proper for a woman to express such feelings first. African traditions held that a man should be the one to make the first move, and Lisa wasn't sure how Mark felt about her. so she kept her feelings to herself, hoping that someday Mark might see her the way she saw him. What Lisa didn't know was that Mark was wrestling with his own emotions. He had grown fond of Lisa, not just as a friend, but as someone he could see a future with. She was kind, determined, and always there when he needed support. But Mark was afraid. He wasn't sure if Lisa would accept him, especially considering his current situation. He still felt like he was struggling to find his footing, and he didn't want to burden her with his problems. Mark's fear of rejection kept him from saying anything. He worried that if he told Lisa how he felt, it might change their relationship, or worse, push her away. So, like Lisa, he kept his feelings hidden, choosing instead to focus on their shared goals. Together, Lisa and Mark continued to attend auditions and interviews, facing each rejection with renewed hope. They refused to let their setbacks define them. Instead, they saw each failure as a step closer to success. And through it all, they remained each other's greatest support. Despite their unspoken feelings, Lisa and Mark's friendship deepened. They spent more time together, going for walks in the park, sharing meals at small cozy restaurants, and even helping each other prepare for their next big opportunities. They were a team, united by their dreams and their determination to succeed. As the days turned into weeks, Lisa and Mark found themselves thinking more and more about each other, but neither was ready to take the next step to admit that what they felt was more than just friendship. They continued on, side by side, each holding on to a secret, hoping that one day their feelings would be returned. The days had been long and tiring for both Lisa and Mark, filled with the usual routine of job hunting and attending interviews that seemed to lead nowhere. Despite the struggles, their friendship remained a constant source of strength. They had grown closer over the weeks, and though neither had said it loud, their feelings for each other were becoming harder to ignore. One Friday evening, after another round of interviews, Mark found himself thinking about Lisa more than usual. Her kindness, her unwavering belief in him, and the way she always seemed to understand him. It was all beginning to weigh on his heart. He had been keeping his feelings hidden for so long, afraid that she might not feel the same way, or worse, that she might reject him because of his current situation. But Mark was a man of determination, and that evening he made up his mind. He had been through worse in life, and if he could face poverty and still dream big, then he could certainly gather the courage to tell Lisa how he felt. That weekend, Mark decided to take the plunge. He called Lisa and asked if she would like to meet up on Sunday for lunch. His voice trembled slightly, but he did the best to sound confident. Lisa, who had been waiting for this moment for what felt like forever, agreed without hesitation. She didn't care about his current circumstances. She had seen the kind of person Mark was, and she believed in him wholeheartedly. Sunday morning arrived, and the city was alive with the usual weekend buzz. Lisa dressed carefully, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She knew today might be different from all their previous meetings, but she didn't know exactly how. Meanwhile, Mark was preparing himself as well, trying to keep his thoughts calm and focused. They met at a small quiet restaurant not too far from Lisa's apartment. The place was cozy, with soft music playing in the background and the smell of freshly cooked food wafting through the air. It was the perfect setting for what Mark was about to do. As they sat down at their table, they exchanged the usual pleasantries, talking about their week and the latest interviews. But there was a different energy between them today, something unspoken yet felt deeply by both. After they had ordered their meals, Mark decided it was time. He looked across the table at Lisa, her warm smile making his heart race. Taking a deep breath, he began to speak. Lisa, Mark started, his voice steady but soft. There is something I've been meaning to tell you. I've thought about this for a while now, and I just can't keep it myself any longer. Lisa's heart skipped a beat. She could see the seriousness in his eyes, and she braced herself for whatever was coming next. Mark continued, "You've been such a wonderful friend to me, and I can't tell you how much that means. But the truth is, I've come to care about you in a way that goes beyond friendship. I don't say anything before because, well, I was afraid that you might not feel the same way or that you might not want to be with someone like me, especially when I'm still struggling to find my footing." Lisa listened intently, her eyes never leaving Max. Her heart was racing now, but not out of fear, out of happiness. Mark went on, "But I've realized that I can't let fear stop me. So I'm asking you, Lisa, if you would give me the chance to be more than just your friend." For a moment, there was silence between them. Mark held his breath, waiting for Lisa's response. Then, with a smile that lit up her entire face, Lisa reached across the table and took Mark's hand in hers. "Mark, I've been waiting for you to say this," she said softly. "I've cared about you for a long time too, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to make you uncomfortable or pressure you in a way." Mark's heart swelled with relief and joy as Lisa continued. "I don't care about your current situation, Mark. I see the kind of person you are. You are honest, determined, and full of dreams. I believe in you, and I know that one day you are going to achieve everything you set your mind to. I would be honored to stand by your side as you do so." Mark could hardly believe what he was hearing. All the fears he had carried melted away in that instant. He squeezed Lisa's hand gently, feeling more grateful than he had ever felt before. They spent the rest of the afternoon celebrating their newfound love. They talked about their future, their dreams, and how they would continue to support each other no matter what challenges came their way. They promised to always be there for one another, to lift each other up when times were tough, and to never lose sight of their goals. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the city, Lisa and Mark knew that this was the start of something beautiful. They didn't know what the future held, but they knew they would face it together, hand in hand. Life had begun to take on a new rhythm for Lisa and Mark. They were still navigating the challenges of their careers, but now they had each other to lean on. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and their shared dreams kept them motivated even when things seemed tough. One day, as Lisa was going through her contacts, she remembered her uncle Mr. Ade, who was a successful accountant in the city. He owned a small but reputable accounting firm and had connections in the industry. Lisa thought of Mark immediately. She knew how hard he had been working to find a stable job, and she wanted to help him in any way she could. Without wasting any time, Lisa called her uncle. She explained Mark's situation, his qualification, and how determined and hardworking he was. Mr. Ade listened carefully, and after hearing Lisa's glowing recommendation, he agreed to meet with Mark. He was impressed by Lisa's passion and believed that anyone she spoke so highly of must be worth considering. Lisa was overjoyed. She knew this could be the breakthrough Mark had been waiting for. She couldn't wait to share the news with him, so she called him immediately. "Mark," Lisa said excitedly when he picked up the phone, "I have some good news. My uncle has agreed to meet with you. He runs an accounting firm, and he must have a job for you. He runs an accounting firm, and he might have a job for you." Mark was stunned. He had been trying so hard to find a good job, and here Lisa was, offering him a real opportunity. He felt a wave of gratitude wash over him, and for a moment, he was speechless. "Lisa, I don't know what to say," Mark finally managed, his voice filled with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. I'll do my best to make the most of this chance." Lisa smiled, even though Mark couldn't see her. "You deserve it, Mark. You've worked so hard, and I know you will do great. Just be yourself, and I'm sure my uncle will see what I see in you." A few days later, Mark had his meeting with Mr. Ade. He was nervous but determined to make a good impression. He arrived at the firm dressed neatly, with his resume in hand and a determined look on his face. Mr. Ade welcomed Mark warmly and asked him a few questions about his experience and goals. Mark answered confidently, showing the same determination and honesty that had drawn Lisa to him. Mr. Ade was impressed by Mark's attitude and his willingness to work hard despite the challenges he had faced. After the interview, Mr. Ade offered Mark a position at his firm. It wasn't a high paying job, but it was a start, and more importantly, it was an opportunity to prove himself. When Mark heard the offer, he felt a mixture of relief and excitement. He had finally secured a job, and it was all thanks to Lisa's belief in him. He couldn't wait to tell her the good news. That evening, Mark and Lisa met at their favorite park, the same place where they had shared so many dreams and hopes. Mark was practically glowing with happiness as he told Lisa about the job. "Lisa, I can't believe it," Mark said, unable to keep his excitement out of his voice. "Your uncle offered me a job. I'm going to be working at his firm." Lisa's heart swelled with pride and happiness. She knew how much this meant to Mark, and she was thrilled to see him so excited. "I'm so happy for you, Mark. I know you could do it." Mark took Lisa's hands in his hand and looked at her with deep gratitude. "This wouldn't have been possible without you, Lisa. You believed in me when no one else did. I'm going to work hard and make you proud." Lisa squeezed his hands, smiling up at him. "I know you will, Mark. I'm already proud of you." Mark started his new job the following week. He was determined to make a good impression and to show Mr. Ade that he had made the right choice in hiring him. From the moment he stepped into the office, Mark was focused. He worked diligently, eager to learn and to prove himself. The office was a new environment for Mark. The firm handled a variety of clients, from small businesses to larger corporations, and Mark quickly found himself immersed in the work. He was determined to succeed, not just for himself, but for Lisa as well. He wanted to show her that her belief in him was well founded. As the days passed, Mark became more comfortable in his new role. He was learning quickly, and his colleagues noticed his dedication. But despite the long hours and the challenges of the job, Mark never lost sight of what was important. He knew that he was working not just for himself, but for his future with Lisa. There were distractions at the office, of course. Some of the women who worked there were sophisticated and confident, often dressed in a way that caught the attention of many of the men in the office. But Mark wasn't interested. His heart belonged to Lisa, and he wasn't about to let anything distract him from his work or from the love he has for her. Mark stayed focused on his job, determined to succeed. But even as he worked, his thoughts often drifted to Lisa. He knew how much she wanted to find a job as well, and it bothered him that she was still searching. He wished he could do more to help her, just as she had helped him. Despite his own success, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. He wanted Lisa to find the same happiness and fulfillment that he had found in his new job. And as much as he was grateful for the opportunity he had been given, he knew that he wouldn't be truly content until Lisa had a job of her own. Mark's determination grew even stronger. He would continue to work hard, to make Lisa proud, and to support her in any way he could. And no matter what challenges came their way, he knew that they would face them together. The days turned into weeks, and Lisa was still on the hunt for a job. She had been tirelessly searching and applying for every position she could find, but nothing seemed to come her way. The frustration was starting to build, but Lisa refused to give up. She had seen how Mark had persevered, and it gave her the strength to keep going. Mark, on his part, was doing everything he could to help Lisa. He asked around at work, spoke to colleagues, and even searched online for any openings that might suit her. But despite his efforts, nothing was forthcoming. He knew how much it meant to Lisa to find a job, and it pained him that he couldn't do more to help her. One afternoon, as Lisa sat on her bed scrolling through her phone, she stumbled upon a post that caught her attention. It was an advertisement for a job at an accounting firm in Canada. The post described the company as a growing firm that was looking for a talented individuals to join their team. They were offering positions to qualified accountants, and the thought of it intrigued Lisa. Canada, she thought to herself, it seemed like a far off place, so different from the life she knew, but something about the opportunity called to her. It was a chance to start fresh, to prove herself in a new environment. She decided to give it a try. Lisa filled out the necessary forms online, carefully entering all her details and attaching her resume. She hesitated for a moment before hitting the submit button. She knew it was a long shot, but she had nothing to lose. After sending off the application, she pushed the thought to the back of her mind and continued her search for job in Nigeria, not expecting much to come from it. A month had passed, and Lisa was beginning to lose hope. She had attended a few more interviews, but none had led to a job offer. Every rejection weighed heavily on her heart. But she kept going, believing that something would come her way very soon. Then one morning, as Lisa was going through her emails, she noticed a message in her inbox. The subject line read, "Job offer, accounting firm in Canada." Lisa's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? She quickly opened the email and began reading. "Dear Miss Lisa," the email began, "we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the position of junior accountant at our firm. We were impressed by your qualification and believe you would be a great addition to our team. As part of your employment package, we will be sponsoring your visa and flight to Canada. We look forward to welcoming you to our company." Lisa couldn't believe what she was reading. She had been offered the job in Canada. It was more than she had ever expected, and the reality of it took a moment to sink in. When it finally did, she let out a cry of excitement, her heart pounding with joy. Without wasting a second, Lisa picked up her phone and called Mark. Her fingers trembled as she dialed his number, barely able to contain her excitement. "Mark, you won't believe this," Lisa exclaimed as soon as he answered. "I got the job in Canada. They are offering me a position, and they are even sponsoring my visa and flight." Mark was stunned. He had been hoping for good news for Lisa, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. "Lisa, this is amazing," he said, his voice full of happiness for her. "I know something great would come your way. This is such a big opportunity." Lisa was over the moon. She could hear the pride in Mark's voice, and it made her even happier. "Thank you, Mark. I can't believe this is happening. I'm so excited and a little nervous too." Mark understood how she felt. It was a huge step, moving to a new country, starting a new life. But he knew Lisa was more than capable of handling it. "You are going to do great, Lisa. I'm so proud of you. We need to celebrate this properly. How about you come over to my place tonight? We can have dinner and toast to your new adventure." Lisa agreed, eager to share her excitement with the one person who had been with her through it all. That evening, she made her way to Mark's apartment, her mind buzzing with thoughts of the future. When she arrived, Mark welcomed her with a warm smile and a hug, his happiness for her shining through. They spent the evening celebrating Lisa's success. Mark had cooked a simple dinner, and they sat together talking about what the future might hold. They laughed and joked, but beneath it all, there was a sense of something deeper. Mark was genuinely proud of Lisa, and Lisa was grateful for support Mark had always given her. As they raised their glasses to toast, Mark looked at Lisa with a serious expression. "You are going to do amazing things in Canada, Lisa. I believe in you, and I know you are going to make a big impact there. Just promise me one thing, Lisa." Lisa nodded, curious. "What's that?" "Promise me you will stay in touch," Mark said, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "I know you are going to be far away, but I don't want to lose contact. You are too important to me." Lisa's heart softened at his words. I promise, Mark, no matter where I go, you'll always be a part of my life. I couldn't have made it this far without you. They clinked their glasses together, sealing the promise between them. The rest of the evening was filled with joy and laughter as they celebrated not just Lisa's new job, but also the bond that had grown between them. In the days that followed, Lisa began making preparation for her journey to Canada. There was so much to do: packing, paperwork, and saying goodbye to friends and family. The company had arranged everything for her, including her visa and flight ticket, which made the process much smoother. As Lisa packed her belongings, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and sadness. She was thrilled about the opportunity that awaited her in Canada, but she knew that she would miss Mark terribly. He had been her rock, her confidant, and she couldn't imagine life without him nearby. But Lisa was determined. This was her chance to build a career, to make something of herself, and she knew that Mark would be cheering her on every step of the way. And though they would be miles apart, their bond would remain stronger. The days were passing quickly, and Lisa's departure for Canada was just around the corner. She was filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness, knowing that soon she would be starting a new chapter in her life. But there was something else on her mind, something that had been growing in her heart ever since she had received the job offer. Her feelings for Mark had deepened, and although she hadn't said it out loud, she knew that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. Unknown to Lisa, Mark had been feeling the same way. He had watched Lisa work hard, seen her struggle and triumph, and through it all, his love for her had only grown stronger. He knew that he didn't want to lose her, even when the distance that was soon to separate them. And so, he made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. A week before Lisa's departure, Mark invited her to dinner at a cozy restaurant they both loved. It was a quiet place where they had shared many meals and conversations about their hopes and dreams. Lisa thought it was just another evening together, but Mark had something special planned. As they sat down to eat, Mark could barely contain his nerves. He wanted everything to be perfect, but more than that, he wanted Lisa to know how much she meant to him. After they had finished their meal, Mark reached across the table and took Lisa's hand in his. Lisa, he began, his voice soft but serious. There's something I need to ask you. Lisa looked up at him, curious. What is it, Mark? Mark took a deep breath, then stood up and walked around to her side of the table. He knelt down on one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Lisa's eyes widened in surprise as she realized what was happening. Lisa, I've loved you from the moment we met, Mark said, his voice filled with emotion. You've been my strength, my support, and my best friend. I can't imagine my life without you in it. Will you do me the honor of being my wife? Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes. She had never expected this, not so soon, but she knew in her heart what her answer would be. Without hesitation, she nodded, her voice trembling with happiness. Yes, Mark. Yes, I will marry you. Mark's face lit up with joy, and he slipped the ring onto Lisa's finger. They stood up together, and Mark pulled her into a tight embrace. It was a moment of pure happiness, a promise of forever that they both cherished deeply. The other diners in the restaurant, seeing the couple's joy, clapped and cheered, adding to the celebration. Afterward, Mark and Lisa left the restaurant and took a walk in the nearby park. The night air was cool and the stars twinkled above them. They talked about their future, their dreams, and how they would support each other through everything that life would bring. It was a night they would never forget. The next day, Mark sat down with Lisa to talk about their wedding. He wanted to marry her before she left for Canada, so they would be assured of their commitment to each other, no matter the distance. Lisa loved the idea. She was excited that she would be starting her new life with Mark by her side, even if it was only in spirit at first. They decided to have a simple court marriage, just the two of them and a few close friends as witness. It wasn't a grand affair, but it was perfect for them. They both knew that their love didn't need a big celebration. What mattered was the promise they were making to each other. However, before they could proceed, Mark knew he had to introduce Lisa to his family. Mark was from the eastern part of Nigeria, where traditions and family's expectations were strong. He knew that his parents might not be happy about his choice of partner, but he was determined to stand by Lisa no matter what. Mark took Lisa to meet his parents one evening. They lived in a comfortable home, and as they arrived, Lisa couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. She knew how important family was to Mark, and she wanted to make a good impression. Mark's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, greeted them politely but with a certain coolness, and Lisa noticed immediately. They invited them inside, and after some small talk, Mark decided to break the news. Mom, Dad, Mark began, this is Lisa, the woman I want to marry. There was a moment of silence, and then Mr. Okafor cleared his throat. Mark, are you sure about this? You know she is not from our tribe. Marriage is a serious commitment, and it's important to consider all aspects. Mark could see where the conversation was heading, and he felt a wave of frustration. He had hoped his parents would be more understanding, but he knew this was a common concern in their culture. Yes, I'm sure, Mark said firmly. I love Lisa, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. Her tribe doesn't matter to me. What matters is that we love each other and are committed to building a future together. Mrs. Okafor looked at Lisa, her expression unreadable. But Mark, think about the challenges. Marrying outside our tribe means different cultures, different ways of life. Are you ready for that? Mark's jaw tightened. Yes, I am. I've thought about it a lot, and I'm certain Lisa is the one for me. It's either Lisa or no one else. Sensing the determination in Mark's voice, his parents reluctantly agreed. They could see that Mark was not going to change his mind, and they didn't want to push him away. They agreed to support him, but in their hearts, they felt a great resentment towards Lisa. They were afraid that she would take Mark away from them and the comfort they enjoyed, but they hid their true feelings and pretended to be happy for the couple. Lisa, who had been quietly observing, sensed the tension but didn't say anything. She knew that winning over Mark's family would take time, and she was willing to be patient. What mattered most was that Mark loved her and she loved him. With his family's reluctant blessings, Mark and Lisa began to prepare for their court marriage. They were excited about their future together, even though they knew there would be challenges ahead. But they were confident that their love was strong enough to overcome anything. 2 days after Mark's conversation with his parents, the day arrived for their court marriage. It was a simple ceremony, just as they had planned. They didn't need anything fancy. All that mattered was the commitment they were making to each other. Mark and Lisa stood before the registrar, their hands clasped tightly together as they exchanged vows. The joy in their hearts was evident on their faces, and the few friends who had come to witness the event couldn't help but smile as they watched the couple. When the registrar pronounced them husband and wife, Lisa felt a wave of happiness wash over her. She never imagined they would reach this point so quickly. From meeting at an audition to now being married, it was a huge achievement for her. She was content, knowing she was starting a new chapter of her life with the man she loved. After the ceremony, they celebrated with a small meal, sharing laughter and dreams of their future. Lisa couldn't help but feel proud of how far they had come. Mark was working. She was about to start her job in Canada, and now they are married. Life seemed to be falling into place perfectly. But as happy as Lisa was, there was a part of her that dreaded the day of her departure. She knew it was coming, and the thought of leaving Mark behind was beginning to weigh heavily on her heart. The night before her flight, she found it hard to sleep, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. She even considered cancelling the job offer, but Mark encouraged her to pursue her dreams, promising that they would always keep in touch. Finally, the day of her departure arrived. It was an emotional morning as they prepared to head to the airport. For the first time, Lisa felt the true weight of what it meant to leave Mark. She clung to him, trying to soak in every moment they had left together. Mark held her close, feeling the same sadness but knowing that this was the right decision for both of them. At the airport, they spent their remaining time together in each other's arms, speaking little but expressing so much thought through their embrace. The minutes seemed to pass too quickly, and before they knew it, Lisa's flight was being called. The moment had come for them to say goodbye. They hugged each other tightly, neither wanting to let go. Lisa felt tears welling up in her eyes, and Mark's heart ached as he held her close. They kissed, and Mark whispered words of encouragement into her ear, reminding her of the future they were building together. Finally, Mark had to gently pull Lisa from his embrace. "You need to go now, Lisa," he said softly. "Don't miss your flight. Remember, I'll always be here cheering you on." Lisa nodded, tears streaming down her face. She grabbed her bags and began walking towards the gate, but she kept turning back, waving at Mark until he was out of sight. As she boarded the plane, a mixture of excitement and sadness filled her heart. Mark watched until the plane disappeared into the sky, feeling a heaviness in his chest. The drive home was quiet and lonely. For the first time, he felt the true weight of being separated from his wife. He missed her already, the warmth of her presence and the joy she brought into his life. When he finally got home, Mark locked himself inside, the emptiness of the apartment reminding him of Lisa's absence. He sat down on the couch, his mind filled with thought of her. She had been a blessing in his life, and now, without her, the apartment felt so empty and cold. As Mark lay on the couch, his thoughts drifted and soon fell asleep. Exhausted by the emotions of the day, he was woken a few hours later by the ringing of his phone. It was Lisa calling to let him know that she had landed safely in Canada. Hearing her voice brought a smile to Mark's face. They spent some time talking, sharing memories of their time together and dreaming about the future. The sound of Lisa's voice was comforting and it brightened Mark's mood. "I miss you already, Lisa," Mark said softly. "I miss you too, Mark," Lisa replied, "but we'll get through this. It's just the beginning of our journey." After a while, Lisa told Mark that she needed to settle in, promising to call him again soon. They said their goodbyes, and Mark hung up the phone, feeling a bit more at ease. He got up and made himself something to eat, trying to distract himself from the loneliness. The house was still quiet, but knowing that Lisa was safe and happy in Canada made Mark feel better. He knew that they had a long road ahead of them, but he was determined to support her in every way he could. As he sat down to eat, Mark smiled, thinking about the future they were building together. A week had passed since Lisa had arrived in Canada, and though the distance was great, the bond between her and Mark remained strong. They communicated constantly, sharing every details of their days, their thoughts, and their dreams. The physical distance was challenging, but their love and commitment to each other kept them close at heart. Back in Nigeria, Mark knew that there was still one important task left to complete: Lisa's traditional marriage rites. Although they had already had their court marriage, Mark wanted to ensure that everything was done properly. According to tradition, he spoke with his parents, and together they made plans to travel to Lisa's hometown to conclude the traditional rites. The day arrived for Mark and his parents to embark on the journey. Mark was filled with a sense of pride and responsibility as he prepared to fulfill this important obligation. He knew that it was not just a formality, but a significant step in honoring both their families and the culture that had shaped them. As they traveled to Lisa's village, Mark kept her updated on every move. Even though she was miles away, Lisa was deeply involved in every aspect of the process. She was touched by Mark's dedication and the way he handled everything with such care and respect. It reassured her that she had made the right choice in marrying him. When they arrived at Lisa's family home, they were warmly welcomed by their relatives. The traditional rite was performed with great care and reverence, a celebration of the union between Mark and Lisa. Mark felt a deep sense of fulfillment as he participated in the rituals, knowing that he was honoring his wife and their shared future. Lisa's family was pleased with Mark's sincerity and the respect he showed for their customs. After the rites were completed, Mark returned home, feeling a strong sense of accomplishment. He had fulfilled his duty to Lisa and her family, and he knew that it would strengthen the bond between them even further. He shared every details of the day with Lisa, who was overjoyed to hear how everything had gone. She was grateful that Mark knew exactly what to do and that he had taken such care in handling everything. Meanwhile, Mark continued to excel in his job. His hard work and dedication did not go unnoticed by his boss, who was increasingly impressed by Mark's performance. Mark was determined to make Lisa proud, and he poured all his energy into his job. He was focused and driven, knowing that every success he achieved was a step towards the future they were building together. In Canada, Lisa was also thriving in her new job. She quickly proved herself to be highly skilled and capable, and her talents did not go unnoticed. Her colleagues and superiors were impressed by her work ethics and the quality of her contributions. Lisa's skillfulness brought her many opportunities and favors, and she was steadily making a name for herself in the company. A few months into her new job, Lisa was pleasantly surprised to see how much she had managed to save. Being paid in dollars had allowed her to accumulate a significant amount of money in a short time. She was shocked by how much she had saved and began to think seriously about how to invest her earnings wisely. Lisa knew that this was a crucial moment in her life and she wanted to make the most of the opportunities she had been given. As she considered her options, Lisa was grateful for the financial stability that her job had brought her. She knew that this was just the beginning, and she was determined to use her resources to create a secure future for herself and Mark. She dreamed of investments that would only benefit them but also help her family back home. Throughout this time, Lisa and Mark never ceased to communicate with each other. Despite the physical distance, it felt as though they were still together, sharing every moment of their lives. They were always on the phone with each other, talking about their day to day experiences, their hopes, and their plans for the future. Their conversations were filled with love and support, reinforcing the deep connection they shared. Even though they couldn't be physically together, their relationship continued to grow stronger. The distance tested their commitment, but it also made them appreciate each other even more. They knew that their love was worth fighting for, and they were willing to do whatever it took to stay close, even from afar. Mark was deeply proud of Lisa's accomplishment and the progress she was making in Canada. He knew that she was working hard to achieve her dreams, and he was determined to support her in every way possible. Lisa, on the other hand, admired Mark's dedication to his work and his unwavering commitment to their relationship. She knew that she could always count on him, no matter the challenges they faced. As the months passed, Lisa and Mark continued to focus on their careers, knowing that every step forward brought them closer to the life they wanted to build together. They were both aware that their journey was just beginning and there were still many challenges ahead. But with each other's support, they were confident that they could overcome anything. Lisa had been doing incredibly well in her job in Canada. The money she was making was more than she had ever imagined. She knew that she and Mark had always dreamed of having their own accounting firm, a place where they could put their skills to use and create something of their own. So, after much thought, Lisa came to a decision. She would send the money she had saved to Mark so they could start their firm together. One evening, after finishing work, Lisa called Mark. She could hardly contain her excitement as she explained her plan to him. Mark, she said, I've been thinking about our future and I want us to start our accounting firm. I've saved up enough money and I am sending it to you so we can begin. At first, Mark was taken aback. He hesitated, feeling uncomfortable with the idea. He didn't want to seem like he was taking advantage of his wife's hard work. Lisa, he replied, I appreciate your thoughtfulness, but I don't want to look like I'm ripping you off. I don't feel right about this. But Lisa was determined. She knew that this was the right move for both of them. Mark, this isn't just about me, she explained. It's about us. We're a team, and this is for our future. We can stop working for other companies and build something of our own, something that will last. Mark listened carefully to her words. He could hear the conviction in her voice, and he realized that Lisa wasn't doing this just for herself. She was doing it for both of them, for their dreams and for their future together. After much back and forth, Mark finally agreed. He could see the wisdom in her plan, and he knew that it was the right step to take. With Lisa's support, Mark began making preparations. He started by finding a suitable location for the firm. He knew that the place they chose had to be just right, somewhere that could grow with them as their business expanded. Mark also took care of the registration and all the legal aspects, ensuring that everything was in order. Lisa's uncle, who had always been supportive of their relationship, was a great help in this process. With his connections and experience, he guided Mark through the necessary steps, making sure that everything went smoothly. It wasn't long before everything was in place. But Mark wanted to do something special to show his appreciation for Lisa's contribution and support. He decided to name the firm after her. The company would be called Lisa Accounting Firm Incorporated. Not only that, but he also made sure that all the property, the land, the building, and everything associated with the business was in Lisa's name. He did this in a way of acknowledging her efforts and sacrifices. When Mark sent the document to Lisa, showing her what he had done, she was taken aback. She wasn't entirely comfortable with the ideas that everything bore her name. Lisa was careful not to let it seem like she had done everything on her own, as she didn't want to belittle Mark's role in their success. She loved and respected him too much to let him feel overshadowed. Mark, Lisa said during one of their calls, I appreciate what you've done, but I don't want to look like it's all my effort. This is our business, and it should reflect that. Mark reassured her, Lisa, it doesn't matter whose name is on the document. What matters is that we built this together. It belongs to us no matter what. This is just a way of showing how much I value you and everything you've done for us. After much thought, Lisa decided to let it slide. She trusted Mark completely and knew that his gesture came from a place of love and respect. She was proud of what they were creating together, and in the end, that was what truly mattered. Before long, Mark had made some important contacts in the business world. He also hired a few employees to help run the firm. Mark was an expert in accounting, and his knowledge and skills allowed him to navigate the business world with confidence. The firm started to grow quickly thanks to Mark's hard work and dedication. Lisa was incredibly proud of what Mark was doing. Even from afar, she could see how well he was managing the firm. She had absolute confidence in his abilities and knew that he would make their business a success. Every time they spoke, Mark would update her on the progress and Lisa would offer her support and encouragement. Meanwhile, Mark's parents paid him a visit to see how he was doing. They were thrilled to see the level of success their son had achieved. The accounting firm was up and running, and Mark was clearly doing well for himself. His parents couldn't help but feel proud as they walked around the office, seeing their son's name on the door. In their community, Mark's parents held their head high. They walked with pride, knowing that their son had made something of himself. What they didn't realize was that the woman they had once looked down on, Lisa, was the one driving force behind Mike's progress. It was Lisa's support and determination that had helped Mark reach this point. But for now, they were blissfully unaware of the true extent of her contributions. Mark, on the other hand, knew exactly how much Lisa had done for him and their business. He never forgot the sacrifices she made and the faith she had in him. He was determined to make her proud and to ensure that their business continued to thrive. As the months passed, Lisa and Mark's relationship remained as strong as ever. They continued to support each other, knowing that they were building something special together. The firm was just the beginning, and they both knew that the future held even greater things for them. Mark's parents had always had certain belief about marriage, particularly when it came to marrying within their own tribe. They were from the East, and like many people from their community, they had strong opinions about the type of woman their son should marry. Even though they had grudgingly accepted Lisa when Mark introduced her as his wife, deep down, they weren't happy with his choice. As time passed and they saw their son's growing success, Mark's parents began to think more seriously about their dissatisfaction with Lisa. They had seen the beautiful office that Mark had set up, the thriving business that was quickly gaining a reputation in the city. They were proud of him, of course, but they couldn't help but feel that something was missing. To them, the perfect picture of success would include a daughter in law from their own tribe, someone who would uphold their traditions and values. One day, while they were visiting Mark at his office, they decided to bring up the topic. It started softly, with his mother asking about how he was managing without Lisa being around. "Mark, my son," she began, her voice filled with concern. "It must be very lonely for you, with Lisa so far away in Canada. How are you coping?" Mark smiled and reassured his mother. "I'm doing fine, Mama. Lisa and I talk every day. We are managing well, and she's doing great at her job over there." But his mother wasn't satisfied with this answer. She exchanged a glance with Mark's father and then continued, "Mark, don't you think it's strange that Lisa would leave you here all alone? If she truly cared about your marriage, wouldn't she be here supporting you? It's not our way for a wife to be so far away from her husband." Mark frowned slightly, sensing where this conversation was heading. "Mama, Lisa and I discussed this before she left. We both agreed that it was the right decision for our future. Her job in Canada is a great opportunity, and we are making it work." His father then chimed in, "Son, we are only thinking of what's best for you. A wife from our tribe would be here with you, helping to build your home. Yoruba women, well, they aren't always as homely as our women. They have different ways, and we are concerned that Lisa might not be the right fit for you in this long run." Mark's patience was starting to wear thin. He loved his parents, but he was not going to tolerate any disrespect towards his wife. He took a deep breath and spoke firmly. "Mama, Papa, I appreciate your concern, but Lisa is my wife, and nothing will change that. She has been my biggest blessing, and I consider myself incredibly lucky that she chose to be with me. If it weren't for Lisa, I wouldn't be where I am today." His parents were stunned. They hadn't expected Mark to speak so passionately in defense of Lisa. They could see the seriousness in his eyes, the determination in his voice. It was clear that he wasn't going to be swayed by their opinions. "But Mark," his mother tried again, "we are just worried about you. We don't want you to regret this decision later on. What if you find yourself alone without anyone to take care of you?" Mark shook his head. "Mama, Lisa and I are partners in every sense of the word. We support each other no matter the distance. I have never felt alone since I met her. She's my wife, and that's final." Realizing that they were getting nowhere with him, Mark's parents reluctantly let the matter drop. They didn't want to push him too far and risk damaging their relationship with him. After all, they were enjoying the benefits of his success, and they didn't want to jeopardize that. On their way home, Mark's mother turned to her husband and whispered, "I'm telling you, that Lisa must be using some kind of charm on our son. How else can you explain the way he talks about her? He's completely under her spell." Mark's father nodded in agreement, but neither of them dared to say anything more on the subject. They knew that Mark was serious about Lisa, and they didn't want to risk being cut off from the life of luxury they were enjoying thanks to their son's success. Back at his office, Mark sat down and thought about the conversation he had just had with his parents. He knew that they would never fully accept Lisa, but he didn't care. To him, Lisa was the most important person in his life, and he would do anything to protect their marriage. He picked up his phone and sent Lisa a message, telling her how much he loved her and how grateful he was to have her in his life. Lisa responded quickly, her words filled with love and reassurance. Even though they were miles apart, Mark felt a deep sense of connection with her. He knew that they were in this together and that no one, not even his parents, could come between them. As he put his phone down, Mark felt a renewed sense of determination. He would continue to build their business, to make Lisa proud, and to prove to everyone that their love was stronger than any doubt or prejudice.